This is my store. You cannot do this. You are disrupting my business. You cannot do this.
Just calm down, sir.
I will not.
In BlackCEO denied shopping in her own store 7. Minutes later, she fired the employees. The gripping journey unfolds as Maya Johnson, a powerful BlackCEO, faces humiliation when her own store's staff bars her entry, accusing her of not belonging. What follows is a cinematic escalation, public humiliation, a painful 7 minutes of silence, and then Maya's explosive return of power, firing the racist staff on the spot. The story spreads like wildfire online in a media storm, forcing the world to confront systemic prejudice. In the boardroom, Maya faces her own executives who value profit over justice. But with poise and conviction, she forces a reckoning, transforming her brand into a global symbol of inclusion. While the disgraced employees sink into obscurity, Maya's vision of luxury without barriers reshapes the industry, proving that poetic justice is not about revenge but restoration, and leaving behind a legacy where even 7 minutes of silence echo into eternity. The glass doors of Maison Elegance gleamed under the noon sun, polished so brightly they mirrored the bustle of the city streets. A line of customers trickled in and out, greeted with smiles, guided through an oasis of marble floors and golden racks. Maya Johnson stood at the entrance, her reflection sharp in the glass. She wore jeans, a plain black turtleneck, and sneakers, nothing that hinted at the power she carried. Her gaze lingered on the name etched above the doorway. Her name, her vision, her brand. She took a step forward. "Excuse me, ma'am." A voice stopped her. A young sales associate, blonde ponytail tight as a whip, raised a hand. "This store is for members only." Maya blinked. "Members?" "Yes, private clientele." "You'll need an appointment?" "I'm here to look around," Maya replied calmly. "It won't take long." Another associate joined, arms folded, lips curled. "We've had issues with loiterers lately. You'll need to leave." Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm a customer." "No, you're not." The second associate's voice was sharp, definitive. "This is a luxury brand. Maybe try the outlet stores across town." The words hung heavy. A small crowd began to notice. A woman with shopping bags slowed, whispering to her friend. A man waiting outside glanced up from his phone. Maya inhaled, steady. "I'd like to enter my store." "Your what?" The first associate chuckled. "My store?" The associates exchanged looks, smirks growing bolder. "Listen, we don't have time for jokes. Please leave before we call security." Narration cut through the silence. In that moment, history echoed. Doors that once barred black bodies from restaurants, hotels, and schools now stood polished in gold. But the hands that barred them had not changed. Maya stood firm. Her silence grew louder than words. "Are you refusing to leave?" The second associate snapped, stepping closer. Customers paused at the tension. One murmured, "Isn't that Maya Johnson?" Another hushed them quickly, but the associates heard nothing. Their bias was louder than truth. Maya's lips curved into a faint, almost tragic smile. She stepped back away from the doors. For a moment, she simply stood outside, denied entry to the empire she had built brick by brick. Idea by idea, sacrifice by sacrifice. Behind the glass, luxury shimmered. Outside, Maya's reflection looked back at her, calm yet burning with a silent fire. The chapter closed not with an outburst, but with a silence that demanded to be answered. The glass door shut behind a pair of departing customers, and the associates tightened their stance at the entrance, shoulders squared like guards on duty. Maya remained outside, still and composed, though every second pulsed with unspoken insult. "Ma'am," the first associate repeated, her tone sharper now. "You need to leave before we escalate this." Maya tilted her head slightly. "Escalate to what?" "To security," the second one answered flatly. "Or the police if necessary." A hush rippled through the crowd. A teenager recording on his phone whispered, "She didn't even do anything." The blonde associate leaned forward, lowering her voice but not enough to hide the edge. "We've seen this before. People trying to sneak in, pretending they belong. We can't risk theft." Maya's gaze locked onto hers, steady as stone. "You're accusing me of being a thief?" "If the shoe fits." the second one muttered under his breath. Gasps broke out among a few onlookers. A woman clutching her child pulled her closer, whispering, "That's Maya Johnson, isn't it?" The CEO? But the associates dismissed the whispers, blinded by their certainty. "Look." The manager's voice sliced through the tension as he finally arrived, striding over in a crisp, gray suit. His expression carried impatience as though his presence was wasted on this confrontation. "What's going on here?" he asked, eyeing Maya with a quick once-over. "She tried to get in without clearance," the blonde associate explained. "We told her it's members only." The manager's eyes swept over Maya again, her simple clothes, her dark skin, her calm defiance. He smirked faintly. "Ma'am, you're clearly in the wrong place. This establishment caters to an exclusive clientele. We don't entertain walk-ins." "I wasn't walking in," Maya replied evenly. "I was entering." The manager chuckled, a hollow laugh dripping with condescension. "Entering what exactly?" "This isn't a supermarket. Our clientele value privacy. You should respect that." Narration broke in, cold and cutting. It was the same song, only remixed for a new century. Black skin marked as threat. Casual clothes mistaken for poverty. Success erased by stereotype. The walls of exclusion polished in marble, their gatekeepers armed not with whips but with policies. Maya's silence stretched, heavy, deliberate. The second associate crossed her arms. "Why are you even insisting? You can't afford anything in here." The crowd stirred at the words. Some shook their heads, disgusted. Others pulled out their phones to film. The air thickened with a mix of curiosity, shame, and anticipation. Maya finally spoke, her voice soft but slicing through the noise. "You assume a lot about me?" The manager shrugged. "Experience teaches us patterns." "And you, ma'am, fit the pattern. Which pattern is that?" Maya asked. His smile was thin, unbothered. "The kind that doesn't belong." A murmur of disbelief rippled outside. One man muttered, "Unbelievable," while another whispered, "This is gonna blow up." Maya inhaled deeply, her chest rising and falling with controlled restraint. She could have ended this now, with a single declaration of her title, but she didn't. She let the weight of their words hang, let the cameras capture every ounce of their arrogance. "You're still standing here," the blonde associate snapped. "That's trespassing. We're calling security." Maya's lips curved. Not in amusement, not in anger, but in the quiet recognition of history repeating itself. Her silence became defiance. Her stillness became resistance. The crowd pressed closer, their whispers louder now. A young black woman near the front whispered to her friend, "I can't believe they're treating her like this." If this can happen to Maya Johnson, what about the rest of us? The question lingered like smoke in the air. The manager turned to his associates. "Call security. Let's end this nonsense." "Yes, sir," one of them said eagerly, pulling out her phone. But before she could dial, Maya finally shifted her stance, her voice low but steady. "Do you know who I am?" The associates laughed, sharp and dismissive. The manager smirked, arms folded. "No," he said flatly, "and I don't care." Narration thundered in like a verdict, and therein lay the truth, not ignorance but indifference, not the inability to see but the refusal to believe. Because for them, a black woman could never own these walls, never belong to this golden kingdom. Maya's silence pressed in again, suffocating yet unbroken. She let them drown in their own certainty. The crowd leaned forward, anticipation rising, and Maya stood unshaken, waiting, knowing the storm was only just beginning. The hum of the street blurred into a hush as Maya's question lingered in the air. "Do you know who I am?" The blonde associate snorted. "Oh, here we go." She mimicked a dramatic gasp, hand pressed to her chest. "What are you going to say next? That you're Beyoncé?" A ripple of laughter broke from her coworker. The manager didn't laugh, but his smirk held steady. "I've heard every excuse in the book. Celebrity impersonators, delusional shoppers, even con artists. But I'll give you credit, you're calm. I'll almost miss you when security drags you out." Maya's gaze did not falter. She reached slowly into her purse. Gasps fluttered through the crowd. "She's pulling something?" A man in a leather jacket muttered. "Chill, she's not reaching for a weapon. Look at her." Maya drew out a slim, embossed leather card holder. Her manicured finger slid an ID free. She held it up, steady, the golden letters glinting. Maya L. Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Maison Elegance International. The crowd stirred, Phones zoomed in. Someone whispered, "That's real. That's her." The blonde associate rolled her eyes. "Fake. You can order those online." Her coworker chuckled nervously. "Yeah, next she'll pull out a monopoly deed." The manager reached for the card, skepticism painted across his face. He studied it, his smirk faltering just slightly. "Where did you get this?" Maya's voice was soft, firm, from the corporate office. "Where my signature is on every paycheck you cash." A murmur of shock swelled through the bystanders. A middle-aged man whispered to his wife, "That's Maya Johnson. I saw her on Forbes last month." But the employees clung to disbelief like armor. The blonde associate crossed her arms tighter. "I don't care what's on some laminated piece of plastic. People fake all sorts of things. You think we're stupid enough to fall for it?" Maya's eyes narrowed, but her tone remained even. "You think it's easier to believe I forged an identity than to accept that I own what you're guarding?" The silence after her words was deafening. The manager shifted uncomfortably, though arrogance still coated his voice. "All right. Let's assume you are who you say you are. Why show up dressed like that? CEOs don't walk around in sneakers." Maya tilted her head. "And what exactly does a CEO look like?" He faltered, lips pressing thin. The answer lay heavy in the air. Not you. Not black. Not a woman. The crowd seemed to feel it too, the weight of unspoken bias pressing down on every word. Narration cut through like a blade. For centuries, proof of worth had never been enough. Papers of freedom questioned. Degrees doubted. Success dismissed. What Maya held was not merely an ID. It was the very proof of her existence, and still, it was not enough. Maya slipped the ID back into her purse with measured grace. "Whether you believe it or not changes nothing. This brand, this store, this empire, you stand inside of what I built, and you just told its owner she didn't belong." A sharp inhale rippled through the onlookers. Phones shook as people captured her every word. The blonde associate scoffed again, her voice shrill with desperation. "You can't just say you own the place. If you're really the CEO, where's your security detail? Where's your entourage?" Maya's calm deepened. "My presence should be enough." The manager's smirk finally cracked, a bead of sweat dotting his temple. He cleared his throat, searching for words. Even if this were true, showing up unannounced is highly unprofessional. "You can't just appear and expect you to recognize the very person who signs your checks," Maya interrupted, her voice sharper now, slicing through his excuses. The crowd erupted with whispers. Someone near the front muttered, "They're done. Completely done." The blonde associate's laughter faltered, thinning into a nervous chuckle. "You're bluffing." But Maya didn't move. Didn't plead. Didn't argue. She let silence do the work. Her stillness bore down heavier than any outburst could, and as those 7 minutes ticked closer, the employees began to realize that the ground beneath them was shifting, quietly, inexorably toward a reckoning they couldn't see coming. The city's rhythm carried on, cars honked, heels clicked against pavement, but inside the glass bubble of Maison Elegance, time slowed. Maya stepped back onto the sidewalk, sliding her hands into her coat pockets. She stood still, framed by the store's golden doors. The associates inside exhaled in relief, mistaking her withdrawal for surrender. "Finally," one muttered. The manager straightened his tie, chuckling quietly. Some people don't understand boundaries, but Maya didn't leave. She stood outside, her eyes fixed on the store she had built. 1 minute passed. Phones stayed lifted in the crowd, recording the stillness. Whispers swirled like smoke. "Why isn't she leaving?" someone asked. "Because she doesn't have to," another replied. Narration seeped in, deliberate, weighted. In silence there is a deeper protest. For centuries, when words were punished, silence spoke louder. Every second Maya stood there, she rewrote the humiliation they tried to brand her with. Her refusal to move said what history always denied: "I belong, I endure, I own." The blonde associate pressed closer to the glass, muttering to her coworker, "She's still here, just staring." Her coworker shivered. "It's creepy. Why doesn't she just leave already?" 2 minutes passed. A young black woman in the crowd whispered, This feels like every time they followed me in a store." She gripped her friend's arm tightly, like they were just waiting for me to slip. Her friend nodded, eyes wet. "But she's not slipping. She's making them sweat." Inside, the manager grew uneasy. "Ignore her," he told his team. She wants attention. Don't give it to her. But the silence kept pressing in. 3 minutes. The weight of Maya's stillness seemed to push against the glass itself. Every blink, every shift of her stance carried meaning. She was no longer just a woman outside a store. She was history standing upright, refusing to bow. Children tugged at their parents' coats, asking why the lady wasn't going in. Parents struggled for words. Some filmed, others stayed quiet, recognizing the gravity of the moment. 4 minutes. The blonde associate paced nervously. Should we actually call security? The manager snapped. No, that's what she wants, a scene. She'll get bored. But it wasn't boredom that anchored Maya. It was resolve. Her silence echoed louder than their insults. 5 minutes. A man in the crowd muttered, "She looks like a queen, just waiting for her throne to remember her." The people around him nodded slowly. Even strangers who hadn't recognized Maya now felt the gravity. 6 minutes. Inside, the associates shifted uneasily. Their laughter had faded. Their earlier arrogance wilted into whispers. "Why is she still here?" the brunette asked, voice sharp with anxiety. The manager wiped his brow. "She's bluffing, just wait her out." But the customers inside weren't waiting. Some stared openly, some whispered angrily. One woman spoke up. "If that is Maya Johnson, you've just made a huge mistake." The employees froze. The seed of doubt, long resisted, now rooted in their minds. 7 minutes, the longest 7 minutes of their careers. Maya did not flinch, did not shout, did not beg. She simply stood there, regal in her restraint, letting the silence wrap around the store like chains. Narration struck the moment home. Silence is not absence. It is presence amplified. And in those 7 minutes, Maya turned humiliation into witness, mockery into memory, and a closed door into the loudest protest of all. The doors gleamed in the sunlight. The crowd held its breath. The employees trembled, and Maya only waited because she knew what came next. The golden doors finally swung open again, but not for Maya. Her executive assistant, Jordan Ellis, hurried up the marble steps, breathless from sprinting through traffic. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, tablet in hand, he scanned the crowd and spotted her immediately. "Madam Johnson," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "Apologies for the delay. Traffic was impossible." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Phones tilted higher. The blonde associate blinked. Did he just say, "Johnson"? Jordan turned sharply toward the employees blocking the entrance. "You," he said, voice sharp with authority. "Open those doors now." The manager bristled, stepping forward. "And you are?" "I'm her assistant," Jordan replied coldly. "And you've spent the last several minutes denying entry to the CEO of this company. Congratulations, your career's just ended." The words sliced through the air. The brunette associate paled. "CCO?" Maya finally moved, stepping forward with unhurried grace. Her silence remained her weapon, but now her presence had backup, undeniable and official. Jordan glanced at her, then back at the employees. "This is Maya L. Johnson, founder, owner, chief executive officer. Every inch of this building exists because she dreamed it, funded it, and built it." The crowd erupted in whispers, some cheers, some stunned curses. One teenager muttered, "Man, I got that all on video." "They're done," the blonde associate sputtered, shaking her head. This is a mistake. She didn't look like what?" Jordan snapped, his eyes narrowing. "Didn't look rich enough? Didn't look white enough? Didn't look like the fantasy you had in your head of who deserves to own luxury?" The silence following his words was brutal. The manager tried to regain ground, plastering on a thin smile. "Look, this has clearly been a misunderstanding." Maya finally spoke, her voice calm but heavy, each word a hammer striking stone. "No, it wasn't a misunderstanding." All eyes turned to her. Her gaze swept over the associates, then the manager, her tone even but piercing. "You didn't misunderstand who I was. You dismissed who I could be. You saw me, and in an instant you decided what box I belonged in, and it wasn't this one." Her words fell like stones into a still pond, rippling across the hushed crowd. The blonde associate stammered, "We were just doing our job. Your job is to welcome customers," Maya cut in, her voice slicing sharp and clean. "Not to profile them, not to humiliate them, And certainly not to bar your own employer from her own store. Jordan stepped closer, his voice steely. You didn't just make a mistake. You revealed the rot that hides under polite words like exclusive clientele and members only. You showed us all the truth, that exclusion isn't policy. It's prejudice. A murmur of agreement rose from the crowd. Someone clapped once, hesitant, then another joined. Soon the air buzzed with tension and support. The manager's mask cracked. Please, let's step inside and talk privately. No need to make a scene. Maya's lips curved into a cold half-smile. The scene has already been made, by you. I'm only here to finish it. Narration cut in, low and deliberate. For years, the powerful had dragged injustice into back rooms, behind closed doors, hidden in paperwork and whispers. But here, now, under the unforgiving eye of 100 cameras, Maya chose exposure over secrecy. Justice was no longer private, it was public. The blonde associate fumbled, her voice shrill. We didn't know. We didn't know who you were. Maya's eyes locked onto hers. And that's the point. You didn't think someone like me could be who I am? The crowd roared with murmurs of agreement. The employees shrank under the weight of so many witnesses, their earlier arrogance dissolving into panic. Jordan straightened his tie, his tone final. Madam Johnson, shall I proceed with immediate termination notices? Maya's silence returned. But this time it wasn't resistance. It was judgment. Her nod was subtle, unmistakable. The employees froze, their faces draining of color. The manager opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. The crowd leaned in closer, waiting. The reckoning had begun. The store had never been so quiet. Not during Black Friday chaos, not during luxury launches. Silence pressed against the marble walls, against the golden racks, against the very air. Every phone was raised now. Every eye locked on Maya. She stepped forward, finally crossing the threshold she'd been barred from. The crowd outside leaned against the glass to watch, their breath fogging the pristine doors. The associate scrambled back as if her presence burned. The manager cleared his throat, forcing a smile that wavered at the edges. Ms. Johnson, he began, voice slippery with panic. Surely we can discuss this in private. No, Maya said simply. The word landed like a gavel. Her gaze swept across the employees, calm, icy. I don't do private when humiliation has been public, gasps echoed through the store. Jordan stepped up beside her, tablet glowing in his hand. Employment records are already pulled up. Say the word, madam. The blonde associate raised her hands. Wait. Please listen. We didn't know who you were. If we had... Maya's eyes locked onto hers, sharp enough to slice. If you had known I was the CEO, you'd have smiled. Offered champagne. Carried my bags. But because you thought I was just another black woman, you barred me at the door. Don't hide behind ignorance. That was choice. The crowd murmured in agreement. The brunette associate's voice trembled. We were protecting the store. Following protocol. What protocol? Maya snapped, her voice rising for the first time. It cut through the marble air like thunder. What manual tells you to accuse without cause? What handbook tells you to humiliate first and ask questions never? The employees flinched. The cameras caught everything. The manager stepped in, hands raised. Ms. Johnson, please. They're young, inexperienced. Inexperience doesn't breed racism, Maya said coldly. Bias does. Arrogance does. And your leadership allowed it to fester. The manager froze. His lips parted, but no defense came. Narration struck like a drumbeat. Poetic justice does not whisper. It arrives with weight, with finality. In the same place where exclusion was declared, reversal must be spoken aloud. Maya turned to Jordan, her chin lifting with quiet authority. Effective immediately, she said, her voice clear enough for every phone camera to capture. These employees are terminated. The blonde associate's knees buckled. Please, this is my livelihood. I didn't mean... Neither did the people you profiled before me, Maya interrupted sharply. Neither did the customers you turned away because they didn't look the part. But they still suffered. And until someone pays a price, the cycle continues. The brunette began to cry softly. I swear I didn't want this. Maya's eyes softened only slightly. Then you should have spoken. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. And you were very silent when your colleague called me a thief. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. The manager swallowed hard, sweat glistening at his temples. I'll personally ensure this never happens again. Training, oversight. Maya turned to him, her stare unforgiving. You won't ensure anything, his eyes widened. Wait, you're done too, Maya said, her voice final. Effective now. Your resignation is accepted. The man's mouth opened, closed. Opened again like a fish gasping for water it no longer had. You can't just, yes. I can, Maya cut in, her words sharp as broken glass. Because while you spent your time managing prejudice, I spent mine building power. And today, you've lost yours. The crowd erupted. Some clapped, others cheered, many simply shook their heads in stunned awe. Phones captured every angle, every broken expression, every trembling word. The blonde associate dropped her head into her hands, sobbing. The brunette stared at the floor. The manager looked like a man watching his empire crumble in real time. And Maya stood still, tall, unshaken. Narration closed the scene. Injustice had raised its voice in arrogance, and justice answered in clarity. Those who barred the door were now barred themselves, not by prejudice, but by consequence. The weight of centuries shifted slightly in that moment, and Maya, silent once again, let the noise of their downfall fill the air. The video hit the internet before Maya even left the store. One clip, shaky but clear, showed her standing tall as she said, because while you spent your time managing prejudice, I spent mine building power. And today you've lost yours. The words spread like wildfire. Within minutes, hashtags blazed across every platform. Shopping, while Black fired in 7 minutes, CEO justice. In a small cafe across town, a group of college students crowded around a phone. Yo, is this real? One asked, eyes wide. Man, she's a legend, another said, grinning. That manager looked like he saw a ghost. They laughed, replaying the clip. The sound of Maya's final words echoing like an anthem. Across the city in a newsroom, a young anchor leaned toward the camera. This video has now been viewed over 2 million times in under an hour. Social media users are calling Maya Johnson, CEO of House of Elon, the embodiment of poetic justice after she was denied entry into her own store. Critics say the viral moment exposes systemic discrimination that has long gone unaddressed in luxury spaces. Behind her, screens looped Maya's calm, searing words. In Maya's office, Jordan's phone buzzed relentlessly. He glanced at her. It's everywhere, he said, holding up the screen. CNN, BBC, Twitter, TikTok, everyone's talking. Maya sat in her leather chair, posture as composed as ever, but her eyes betrayed the storm within. They're not talking about me, she murmured. They're talking about what it represents. Jordan leaned forward. And that's exactly the point. You gave them an image they can't ignore. The brunette associate, now unemployed, sat slumped on her couch at home, scrolling through a feed filled with her own tear-streaked face. Traitor, one comment read. Racist Karen number 237, another sneered. Should have thought before you opened your mouth. She flinched at every notification. Her phone rang with an unknown number. She didn't answer. The blonde associate fared no better. Paparazzi swarmed her apartment entrance. Her name leaked online within hours. Her voicemail filled with strangers screaming justice, others mocking, some threatening. The storm had not spared them. Meanwhile, the manager gave a brief interview outside his gated neighborhood. They're taking this out of context, he insisted, sweat dripping under the camera lights. It wasn't racism, it was policy. The reporter cut him off. But Mr. Allen, the CEO herself said there is no policy that supports your actions. Isn't it true you targeted her based on appearance? His jaw worked, but no words came. The clip went viral again, captioned, Policy of Prejudice. Back in her penthouse, Maya scrolled through her phone silently. Thousands of comments flooded her feed. Finally, someone with power standing up. She's our modern Rosa Parks moment. Queen Maya changing the game. Her phone buzzed with a private call. It was her mother, Maya. The older woman's voice trembled. I saw it. Baby, I saw it. You made them see you. You made them see us. For the first time all day, Maya's throat tightened. I didn't plan this, Mama. Some things, her mother whispered, aren't planned. They're destined. Narration slid in, slow and deliberate. The storm was no longer confined to glass doors and polished marble floors. It raged through screens, conversations, boardrooms, kitchens. Justice rarely arrives quietly. It arrives viral, undeniable, impossible to bury. The next morning, networks requested interviews. Morning shows, primetime debates, podcasts, all wanted her voice. "Madam, shall I schedule CNN or GMA first?" Jordan asked, flipping through his calendar. Maya shook her head, firm. "Neither. I'll release my statement on my own terms." "Not theirs," he frowned. "But they're offering prime time." "Prime time belongs to whoever owns the camera," Maya cut in. "And right now, the people already have mine." At noon, she went live on her personal account. Her followers doubled, then tripled in minutes. 500,000 watched as she appeared on screen, steady, dignified, no gloss, no PR team, just her. "I am Maya Johnson," she began, voice calm but resonant, "CEO of House of Elon. Yesterday I was denied entry to my own store. Not because of policy, not because of mistake, but because of prejudice. What happened to me happens to countless people every day. People without cameras, without witnesses, without power. To them I say this, I see you, and I will not let your silence go unheard any longer." The live stream surged past 1 million views. Comments exploded across the screen. "Speak, Queen. Preach. History in the making." Maya leaned closer to the lens. "And to the employees who stood against me, this is not just your downfall. This is a warning to every place that believes racism can hide behind policy. It cannot. Not anymore." She ended the stream. The internet erupted again. Narration closed the chapter. When truth becomes spectacle, it multiplies. When justice is captured on video, it refuses erasure. And in the fire of the media storm, Maya did not shrink. She stood taller, her silhouette framed not by marble walls, but by the glow of millions of screens. The boardroom gleamed with wealth, polished mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, bottled water with gold seals. Yet tension cracked louder than the city noise below. Every chair was filled. Executives in tailored suits adjusted their ties, cleared their throats, and avoided eye contact with Maya, who sat at the head of the table like a storm contained in human form. On the massive screen, a paused frame of the viral video glowed. Maya pointing at the manager, saying, "You're done too." Silence hung. Finally, the chairman, white-haired, polished, his accent dripping with old money, leaned forward. "Maya, the situation has spiraled. The press coverage is relentless. Our stock dropped 2 points this morning. Retail partners are nervous. Some of us believe a softer approach is required." Maya's brow arched. "Softer?" Another board member chimed in, her voice cool but firm. "Perhaps a public apology, reframing the event. Position it as a misunderstanding, not systemic bias. It would calm investors." Maya leaned back slowly, her gaze sweeping the room. "A misunderstanding." She let the words linger, acid-sweet. "Tell me, which part did you misunderstand? The part where I was called a thief? Or the part where I was barred from the company I built?" The room shifted uneasily. Narration cut in, sharp. Here, in the highest towers, silence was dressed in silk and complicity wore tailored suits. The enemy was not just ignorance at the door, it was comfort at the table. The CFO, a graying man with glasses, cleared his throat. "With respect, Maya, your stance, while righteous, risks alienating certain markets. Luxury thrives on exclusivity. If you make this about race, it could damage." Maya's voice cracked like lightning. "Exclusivity has always been about race. Let's stop pretending otherwise." The CFO's face paled. She stood, palms flat against the mahogany. "Our brand was built on elegance, on status. But what good is elegance if it rests on humiliation? What good is status if it is bought by stepping on others?" The chairman's lips tightened. "You're emotional." The words detonated. Jordan, seated beside her, shifted, eyes narrowing, but Maya raised a hand, silencing him. "Emotional?" Her voice was low, dangerous. "I'm not emotional. I'm historical. I carry the weight of every customer turned away, every black woman shadowed by security, every immigrant told they don't belong in spaces their money could buy twice over. If that makes me emotional, then emotion is exactly what this board has lacked." Several members averted their eyes. A young black woman, the only other person of color in the room, sat straighter, her lips trembling as if holding back tears. The chairman sighed. "Maya, if you won't reconsider, then we must discuss the board's confidence in your leadership." Jordan slammed his tablet shut. "Careful," he warned, but Maya remained calm. "Confidence," she repeated. "Do you think your shareholders lack confidence in me?" "Pull the reports." Our online sales spiked 40% in the last 12 hours. Every headline has our brand name in it. For once, not as a relic of elitism, but as a symbol of change. Her words hung heavy. Narration. Power listens to numbers when it will not listen to morality, and numbers were now on her side. The young black woman finally spoke, her voice firm. She's right. I've been on this board 3 years, and not once did we address bias in hiring, in marketing, in customer experience. Yesterday, she forced us to look in the mirror. I support her. Maya inclined her head slightly. The room erupted into quiet arguments. Some whispered about risk, others about optics, others about profit. The storm raged, but Maya stood at the eye of it, immovable. Finally, she raised her hand, silencing the noise. Listen carefully, she said. Her voice no longer carried anger, but clarity. We have 2 choices. 1, bury this, deny it, and rot slowly as a brand clinging to outdated illusions. 2, embrace what happened, acknowledge it, and rebuild House of Elan as the first luxury empire that doesn't whisper prejudice behind polished doors. She paused, eyes sharp. But if you choose the first, understand this. I will not bury it with you. I will walk out that door and I will build something greater, freer, and far more powerful without you. Gasps rippled across the room. The chairman stiffened. Are you threatening the board? Maya's lips curled in the faintest smile. No, I'm offering you survival. Silence returned, heavier this time. Jordan leaned in, voice cool. You've seen what happens when she's underestimated. Ask Mr. Allen and his staff how that worked out. No one spoke. The city skyline beyond the windows glowed like fire. Finally, one by one, hands lifted around the table. Votes, support, reluctant, fearful, some sincere but undeniable. The chairman's hand trembled as he raised his last. Maya nodded, sinking back into her chair. Narration closed the scene. The reckoning was not in the shouts or the hashtags. It was in the boardroom, where legacies were built and destroyed in whispers. And on this day the whispers bent, not because Maya begged, but because she refused to bend. A month later, the House of Elan flagship store looked unrecognizable. The marble still gleamed, the gold accents still shimmered, but something fundamental had shifted. Behind the counters, new faces smiled warmly, faces as diverse as the customers walking through the doors. The air no longer hummed with silent suspicion, but with a quiet hum of possibility. A sign near the entrance read, "Luxury without barriers. Welcome always." Across the city, the former blonde associate sat in a dingy diner, scrolling endlessly through rejection emails. Her name was blacklisted, her reputation irredeemable. The brunette avoided public places altogether. Her landlord whispered about eviction after reporters swarmed the building. Mr. Allen, the ex-manager, lived behind drawn blinds. Lawsuits loomed, his career in tatters. Poetic justice did not roar. It lingered, steady and suffocating. In contrast, Maya moved through her headquarters with quiet authority. Jordan, she said, glancing at the plans projected on the screen. Roll out the new inclusivity initiative across all branches by next quarter. Training, hiring, marketing, everything changes. No excuses. Already in motion, he replied with a smile. The young black board member stepped forward. We'll face backlash. You know some markets will resist. Maya met her eyes. Let them. Progress doesn't wait for permission. Narration slipped in like a steady drumbeat. Justice is not merely punishment. It is reconstruction. It is tearing out rot and planting something stronger in its place. Maya's victory was not the firing. It was the rebuilding. Later that week, Maya appeared on a global stage, an international business conference. Cameras flashed, reporters crowded, audiences leaned forward. A moderator asked, Ms. Johnson, what message do you want the world to take from the incident that made you a household name? Maya took a breath, eyes sweeping the audience. That justice delayed is not justice denied, she said. That racism is not just a social issue, it's a business issue, a cultural issue, a human issue. And that true power doesn't lie in exclusion but in inclusion. Luxury means nothing if humanity is missing. Applause thundered. Clips of her speech spread worldwide. Young entrepreneurs replayed her words in classrooms. Activists quoted her at rallies. CEOs scribbled notes during board meetings. Meanwhile, the flagship store's sales soared higher than ever. Customers who once felt alienated now arrived in droves, drawn not just to the fashion but to the principle. House of Elan had become more than a brand. It had become a statement. One evening, Maya returned quietly to the store. No cameras, no entourage, just her. She stepped through the doors that had once been barriers, and was greeted with warm smiles. "Welcome back, Ms. Johnson," a young associate said, her voice sincere. For a moment, Maya simply stood still, breathing in the space. Narration whispered. Injustice had tried to erase her. But she had not only written herself back in, she had rewritten the story entirely. As she walked deeper into the store, she passed the very threshold where the 7 minutes of silence had once felt eternal. Her heels clicked softly against the marble. This time no one barred her. No one doubted her. Customers of every shade browsed freely, laughter filling the air. A young girl tugged at her mother's sleeve, pointing at Maya. "Mom, that's her. The lady from the video." Maya turned, smiling gently at the child. The mother whispered, eyes shining, "Thank you for making space for us." Maya's throat tightened. She bent down slightly, meeting the little girl's gaze. "This space was always yours," she said softly. The girl grinned, and for the first time, Maya felt the weight lift fully from her shoulders. Narration closed the saga. Poetic justice is not vengeance. It is restoration. It is when the scales tip, not by chance, but by choice. The employees who barred her door were gone, but their downfall was not the story. The story was the door itself. No longer a wall, but an opening. And through that opening, millions could now walk. Maya turned, standing tall under the chandelier's glow. She was no longer just the CEO of a fashion empire. She was the woman who proved that even 7 minutes of silence could echo into eternity. Months passed. The headlines faded. The viral clips gave way to new scandals, new storms. But the story did not die. It lived quietly, permanently, etched into culture, into memory. At universities, professors cited Maya's stand as a case study in leadership. In neighborhoods, parents told their children about the CEO who fired prejudice in 7 minutes. Activists held her words up like banners. And in the House of Elan, the new motto gleamed above every entrance: luxury without barriers. Maya walked through her office one evening, the city glowing beyond the windows. She paused at the framed photograph on her desk, her mother's proud smile the night after the incident. Beneath it lay a note in her mother's careful handwriting. "You didn't just open a door. You broke a wall." She touched the frame lightly, her eyes soft. Narration wove the closing lines. Legacies are not built in comfort. They are carved in resistance, in the refusal to bow, in the insistence that dignity is non-negotiable. Maya's name was now more than a brand, it was a symbol, not of wealth but of will. As she turned off the lights, her reflection lingered in the glass, strong, unbroken, eternal. The world would forget the names of those who tried to bar her, but it would not forget hers. And so the story ended not with silence, but with a door forever open.